I'm Jake Mulcahy, and today we're diving into a topic that's pretty relevant to anyone who spends time on social media, especially if you follow influencers or any social media personalities. So, today we're going to be talking about the fine line between authenticity and branding, and how social media influencers navigate that pressure to be real while also making a living off of their videos and content. This idea comes from the book A Shoppable Life by Hund and McGugan. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, which explores how influencers craft an image that feels personable, but is really just carefully curated by their sponsors or whatever their actual memo is. To help me break this down, I have a guest with me today, Mike Giannini, a good friend of mine, my suite mate, who's also into sneaker culture and loves following influencers.
Hello, thank you for having me. I feel like this is something we all see happening on social media, but we don't always stop to think about how much of what we are consuming is really a performance.
Exactly. So let's start off by breaking down what Hund and McGugan argue in A Shoppable Life. So they argue that influencers exist in this weird space and they have to seem authentic, but their authenticity is also a product that makes them profit. They can't just be themselves, they have to be a version of themselves that's relatable, inspirational, and profitable.
They are expected to share their real lives, but they also have to make money. So everything they post, whether it's a casual day in the life video, a heartfelt Instagram story, or even a rant about something personal, is usually tied to their brand.
Yeah, totally agree. Hund and McGugan call this the shoppable life, where everything becomes marketable. Like when an influencer talks about their struggles, it can be turned into an engagement and eventually profit.
And that has consequences. Influencers have to maintain this balance where they seem genuine, but they also can't be too real. Like if they say or do the wrong thing, they risk losing followers or brand deals.
Yeah, that's totally right. I agree with that. And the pressure to always be on social media or be live or active or whatever can take a toll on some people. Some of the consequences that the book talks about are like emotional burnout, blurring the line between personal identity and the brand itself. So you won't know if you're being sold a product or if they're actually just really into the product itself. Or, audience expectations. The followers might start to feel like they know the influencer, like personally, and that could lead to some erratical decisions and some weird stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of influencers struggle with maintaining boundaries. Because if their brand is based on being authentic, how do they set limits on what they share?
That brings me to an example of Kais Omar. Have you ever heard of Kais Omar, the sneaker YouTuber? I don't know if you know him, but he's built a whole brand around sneaker culture.
Oh yeah, I know him. He's a super engaging and his videos always feel natural. Like he's just a regular guy geeking out over shoes.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what makes him the perfect example of the shoppable life. He presents himself just as another sneakerhead, but his whole brand is built around hyping up products and selling this lifestyle of a hype beast. Take his sneaker unboxing videos. He's not just showing off his new shoes, he's showing a sense of urgency. When he gets like a new pair of shoes that doesn't come out in 3-4 months, he's creating an urgency for this pair of shoes.
Yeah, and that taps into fear of missing out. Even if you weren't planning on buying sneakers, watching his videos make you feel like you should.
Right. And even if his real life content, vlogs, family moments, behind the scenes stuff, still feeds into his brand, his audience sees him as someone they can trust. So when he promotes a sneaker drop or his own merch line or his own sneaker cleaning stuff, they're more likely to buy in.
It's sort of casual, like, oh, I just happen to be wearing this new hoodie, but it's totally intentional.
100%. He's not just a sneaker fan, he's a businessman.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I've definitely bought sneakers after watching his videos. Even if I wasn't planning to, his excitement makes it feel like a moment that I don't want to miss out on.
Yeah, it's a weird tactic because we know it's a sales tactic, but it totally works. How does following influencers like him shape our priorities? Why do we think we have to purchase these shoes even just because he has them early or has them at all?
Yeah, it affects our expectations for ourselves. Like we see these influencers living these cool lifestyles, always getting the newest shoes or gear, and it makes us feel like we need to keep up, even if it's not realistic for us.
Yeah, That's the tricky part. Even if we think we're just watching for fun, we're still being influenced. It's easy to dismiss it and say, oh, I'm not really affected by this, but it's exactly the subtle ones that influence us, the subtle videos and the subtle comments or whatever. That's what gets us the most.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, who benefits the most? The influencers, the brands, the platforms, they profit off all the attention, engagement, and spending from their viewers.
Yeah, right. And that's why I think it's important to take a step back and ask, are we consuming content, or is the content literally consuming us? So, all right, I think that might be a good place to wrap up. I know I didn't really hit the time mark, but I do feel like we talked about a good portion of what the book talks about and relating that to an actual influencer and one that relates to Mike and I. You know, the biggest takeaway here is that social media influencers are constantly walking a fine line between their authenticity and their branding. They need to seem real, but at the end of the day, their content is a business. And for us as their followers, it's important to realize when we're being influenced, because even if we think we're just watching casually, these dynamics still shape our habits, desires, expectations for how we view ourselves.
Yeah, and it's all about being aware. You can still enjoy influencer content, but it helps it to step back and ask, am I being influenced in a way that actually benefits me?
You know, exactly. I totally agree with that last thought. Thank you, Mike. That's great. Well, thanks for joining me, Mike. And to everybody listening, let me know your thoughts on social media influencers and authenticity. Do you think influencers can be truly real? So that's it for today. Catch you next time. Thank you.